We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
In this whole world, you know, there are millions of
All right, and we are live. Welcome to episode 3 of the Something Fishy podcast. We got a heck of an episode today. It's pretty great. It's probably our third best podcast, at least, that we've ever done. So, a little bit of maintenance here. So we had our first contest, giveaway number 1, giving away a widescreen edition of Attack of the Clones.
This widescreen edition.
So we had a lot of entries, and it was a good competition. So Colie, who exactly won this contest?
Well, we had a lot of entries. It was close to 100. We're going to tone it down a little bit next time because it was so broad. But we ended up choosing a winner randomly. It's tag. The tag is black_samurai_31, and he was from Instagram. And so, congratulations. This will be on your way today or tomorrow. So, congrats. Then, the next giveaway, straight into the next giveaway. We've got a Final Fantasy. Can you read Roman numerals? I can't.
12.
12. Is it? Alright, Final Fantasy 12. I don't know if that's right. So it's basically complete, but it's a cash-wise video edition with the manual and everything. So that's going to be on your way for this Final Fantasy, for this giveaway entry, giveaway number 2. It's going to be 5 reviews on Apple Podcast. So it's a little harder to get people to go on there and do it. So if you do the work, take a screenshot, whether you give us a 1-star or a 5-star, it's all the same. You're entered. And so after 5 people review us on Apple Podcast, we're going to send a random winner Final Fantasy 12.
We should do a weighted entry. So
Well, let me.
it's worth 5 more than a 1-star review.
Yeah, maybe next time. Though this Final Fantasy 12 entry is, hey, we just got a voice message from
Alex.
somebody. This Final Fantasy entry for giveaway number 2. If you just send us a screenshot of, from your phone or from your device that you use, Apple Podcasts or iTunes, just if you email us at somethingfishypod@gmail.com or send it to Twitter or Instagram in a DM at podfishy.
Lots of good.
And then,
too.
lots of good prizes. We've got so many more. And then moving into our platforms, we're available on multiple platforms. I think 2 more platforms this week, Overcast and something else. Our tags on almost everything are Podfishy or Something Fishy Podcast. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast. Just give us a like, subscribe, give us a share, give us a review. Anything helps, seriously.
Show's growing too. I think our advanced analytics now say that we have 17 unique listeners to the show. So I know that's pretty.
I want to know how accurate that is, though. Like, how many of those 17 listeners are myself?
I don't know, but I mean, I've had friends calling me and saying, "Yo, man, just heard the new pod. It was sick." So that type of love and that type of support is what we like to hear. So
yeah, we don't go in the same circles. My friends tell me to stop and tell me that I'm a loser. So,
well, you have to surround yourself with people who want you to succeed.
it's true.
All right, so let's dive into it. So our first, we've got kind of like a news segment today overall, like it's kind of a newsy show. Our first topic is Minneapolis defunding the police, which has been going on for a while, but is there some new information out there?
I read this article a while ago. Man, the way I'm recording, I don't think I can use my desktop here, so I'll just have to touch on it on mobile. Unless you wanna...
Wait, okay, I'll just read it then.
jump on.
I'll just read it.
I'll grab the next one. I'll have it up.
Okay. So, Minneapolis to shift $8 million from police budget amid defund the police movement. So, let's see. We share a deep and abiding reverence for the role that our police play in our local government. That was the mayor. So basically, they didn't want to cut the officers down, and instead they voted to just slash the budget, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't. So what's going on, and we're local here. So what's going on is crime is up by a lot. Carjackings were. I read two statistics. It was in the they were up 500%, based on the time frame from last year or wherever it was measured. And then there's another statistic, crime, maybe it was overall, or carjackings or something, was up 300%. So after the riots and everything that happened with George Floyd, a lot of officers quit, or they moved out from the cities into suburbs. And I personally know family or friends with multiple police officers who have moved out, who have PTSD from the riots. These are just regular people with kids who've gotten into this crossfire war between police and media and this movement that all cops are bad and kill all police officers, which these guys are just normal people. And so we are moving towards taking more money away from police officers, whether you agree with them being good or bad. Crime is going up, and crime has been going up, and now we're taking more money away from the Minneapolis police officers. I just don't see how crime wouldn't continue to go up.
And just for completeness sake, I did kind of scan the article, and so it looks like so the budget initially had like a 17 million out of the 117 of the 170 million dollar budget that was decreased just because of COVID and money was tighter overall. But then the second round, this 8 million was going to be directed towards mental health things. Now, I'm not a budget expert, so I mean, I don't think this comes with making the police force smaller or giving cuts to any salaries. But I don't know. I mean, it seems like there's probably quite a bit of fat there, anyways. So I don't know if, like you mentioned, though. What about like rising crime, and is this at all associated with like the budget or whatever? I think that obviously there's been a little bit less police presence probably in some of these areas. I mean, if you just look at like, oh, precinct burned down, well, there's not precinct there anymore, so I would assume that the officers would be somewhere else. But I think that it's worth like mentioning that crime as a statistic tends to go up in tough economic times anyways. So that's obviously a factor too.
I don't think it goes up 500 or 300% though. I'd like to see the statistic. Yeah, I'm obviously not either, but I'd like to see if it's comparable to when economic times are down versus you've got this social movement and these two separate cultures clashing. I'd like to see the statistic as to like the difference, I guess, between the reported percentage that's going up right now versus in the past, what we can measure on.
And I don't know, like we want to, like some of this is good, right? Like we want people to hold the state accountable for abusing their powers, and that's, along those lines, right? I mean, that's a good thing, is people trying to hold the state accountable. But like you said, at what's the trade-off though for that? A lot of the rioting had, and I think I think most people are on the same page where they're like, yes, let's try to hold the police accountable, but at the same time, no, we don't think that the riots are good. So I know this is kind of just rehashing old information, but
Right. Do you think, as a whole, defunding the police is good? I'm split between this because I do think the police need reform, as do a lot of people. And in that, by taking away their finances, the policing that's going to happen, there's going to be lower standards and there's less money in that. So the people, for example, in St. Paul, the police officer's salary is lower than the rest of the metro because they cut police finances. So the starting salary is lower. They see less police officers in St. Paul. The numbers are they're lower than all the other metro. The police officers that they hire on is just kind of anybody because they need people, and the response times are very, very slow.
yeah. Yeah, I always hesitate to put out opinions when I don't know all the I don't have a good understanding of the police force, but just as a general thought, right? So if a police officer can make more money here or less money here, he's going to go where he can make more money.
Well, you're going to go in the more money area with less
right.
crime.
And so what happens too is that the more talented individuals are going to have a better shot at getting the jobs than the less talented individuals. So what ends up happening is if your police officers are getting paid less, you're going to hypothetically attract less talent too.
Right, and you're going to attract less in general.
Honestly, what do you think about a privatized police force? Do you think that's an option?
We talked a little bit about this last week. We can't tear down our big government, but if you could snap your fingers, I would say a privatized police force.
Some cities run their own garbage service.
Right, but garbage services don't have guns and they don't get shot at.
Right, and then sometimes citizens directly contract with garbage services. So, I mean, well, here's the thing, right? We have courts, and the courts are to enforce the law. So even if you're... And that's the biggest problem right now is because basically the police have something called qualified immunity. So whereas a contractor goes in, shoots someone in the middle of the night, he's going to get in trouble. But, police goes in and shoots someone in the middle of the night. There's all the red tape and all the protections for government officials. And
well, yes, but okay, if there isn't any protection, there's not going to be anybody doing that job. So you're going and say you have a family and you, I don't know, are getting paid $60,000 a year as a police officer. And you could go to prison literally every single time you clock in to go to work, and you have a family to support just because you don't have immunity. I'm not saying that you should, officer? But you're not gonna get people doing these jobs if you don't have the immunity.
Well, right. I mean, that's the thing, right? So the thing is, why should a police officer be held to a different standard? I think is the big question. When we're determining something, like in the court of law, right? You gather the evidence. You find, did this person act within the means, within the boundaries that they were supposed to, or not, or did they make a mistake, right? I mean, that happens to people all the time, right? Whether it's a self-defense case or whatever, someone enters the house at night and someone shoots the person who's there, right? There are all these different, this is what citizens have to deal with, right? As we go through the legal process, we have a trial in front of a jury. The jury decides whether they're innocent or guilty, right? That's the protection. That is the protection that they have.
In a way.
What
do you go to work? Well, do you go to? But I'm speaking strictly rationally. You don't go to work with a gun. You don't have to de-escalate situations.
Right.
You're not in the face of danger.
Right, and
so it's hard to say. Well, it's hard to. Well, then you commend it's. I'm not supporting them, or not supporting them.
We all have choices to make. We all have choices to make.
I do think. Well, yeah, but some sort of police force, I think, is necessary. If the privatized police force, if a privatized police force would step in, I don't know. You have a test period that would happen, right? So you have a test period, and then you'd see how it goes, and then you can bring someone else to bid in. But is there going to be sworn immunity for those people?
Well, I mean, this is what's going to happen, right? So let's say we abolish the police and we say we're going with privatized police forces. The police forces in the area are going to hire a lot of police officers to become part of their
Right,
company,
but
right?
I just think
It's just that now we have competing competition among companies. And if your police officers are shooting your citizens as like a city council, right? Because that's like last case, like that is like last line of defense, right? If you're like, well, why is that company better at de-escalating situations than our company? Our company seems to resort to violence pretty early. And that's going to be a problem, right?
Well, I think you're taking a step too far. You have to take a look at where these privatized police forces would happen, and it's in liberal-run cities. And they're saying they don't want, maybe they do, some of them want a privatized police force, but they want these social workers or de-escalation officers going into dangerous situations without any weapons. I think that's more so what we are going to see if this happens, where these cities go privatized versus a public police force. We're going to see stuff like that versus an actual, like, I guess, mercenary police force.
Here's the thing with that is, right, I mean, if having a person like that on site truly reduces the amount of violent police interaction, like, that's a good thing. But I think the problem, like you said, is going to be these are people who are unarmed, and as a fact, some of these people are going to be harmed by, criminals who may be dangerous, right? So I'd say that's the biggest problem with that idea.
Well,
You're just going to put someone, but I mean, once again, it's like you sign up for the job, right? I mean,
no one's going to want the job.
but yeah, I guess.
And then I think crime would continue to go up, or at least be up over versus what we have now.
And I mean, we could do a deep dive on like the root causes of crime and that sort of thing too. But I think there's a lot of layers to that.
Yeah, it gets tough when you have these union jobs, because what happens, a union is great. At the same time, it's really bad because you have to protect everybody. So you have to protect the scumbags who are working for you and are in your union, and then you protect the people who are good, hardworking people, and they come to work every day and they do their job and things happen. So we're kind of seeing that with the police force, and I don't think people understand how unions are modeled and how they work as a whole. It's not, we're going to protect you if you're good. It's, you're a part of the union, we protect you, and we fight for you.
Yeah, that's how unions work. Yep.
I don't think the public understands. I just don't think the public understands that.
Well, listeners of our podcast know how unions work.
Except for our listeners. Smartest people.
All right, let's move on. Enough of that. I feel like I've just been talking about that for like the last 8 months.
Yeah, but it finally happened, so.
Yeah, we'll see what happens going forward. And I mean, I think across the country, we're going to see a lot of different approaches to policing. So we shall see.
Do you have enough money for privatized police or security? Because the common person doesn't. I don't.
Right? We see like Ring doorbell. That's like a form of privatized security in a way.
If someone's going to break into your house, they're going to break into your house.
Right, but
ooh, doorbell.
that's definitely like a cheap
I'm going to stop.
a cheap deterrent to crime, right? Just have
You can stick with your Ring doorbell. I think other people are going to prefer guns.
this
Are you gonna get a conceal and carry for a Ring doorbell?
receive no money from Ring. It is not sponsored, but we would
Okay.
take their money gladly. All right, so next article. Minnesota residents shamed for their Christmas lights. A reminder of systematic biases against our neighbors. That's all there is to it.
Do you have Christmas lights up? Oh, that was it?
Well, I mean, there's a whole article, but that's basically it. The resident
so
received a
essentially-
letter in the mail shaming them for their Christmas light display. That was the whole article, basically.
I don't see how something it's a cultural holiday. Like, it's not specific, it doesn't exclude anybody. You got the story of Santa Claus, right? So if you go the non-religious route, you've got the story of Santa Claus. This old guy comes down your chimney and he gives your kids gifts, and he also may give you gifts, and he eats cookies and stuff. And so you have that. I don't, like, how does that exclude anybody?
I don't know. The article said that everybody online was like supporting this person, and
It's got to be. You would think that'd be a joke, but in the world that we live in today, I 100% think that someone probably was upset for their neighbor putting up Christmas lights.
I mean, I feel like people don't put up Christmas lights as much as they did anymore, but it seems like there's usually at least one house on every that has lights.
I'll make this prediction here today. Christmas lights are going to become like Trump signs. You're not going to put up Christmas lights because you don't want your house burned down or them stolen or to be called a racist.
You're a white nationalist if you put up Christmas.
Right. Santa was white. He lived in the north. Like up in the Nordic, country. It's unbelievable, the parallels to Santa and racism. He's got elves as slaves. So that's another thing.
What if the elves consent to being wards of Santa?
I guess. But at that point, see, that's all the elves have known. So there's generations of elves who don't know what it's like to be free. So there's systematic racism up at the North Pole within the elf communities.
Yeah, I just don't think that's too radical. We need to slowly work on reforms for elves. We can't just set them free.
That's true. Maybe, yeah, I'm not going to get into it.
Just like people always talk about with Social Security. No, we can't get rid of it. That's too radical. Be real.
Yeah.
Be real. Old people would die in the streets.
Old people would die in the streets without social... You know what? Everyone would die in the streets all at once if we abolished the Federal Reserve.
At the Fed.
Yeah.
And then end it.
Yeah.
Okay, so... do you even want to talk about Facebook?
I don't care. That's
This bar story.
well, Facebook. It's another thing like the abolishing the police in Minneapolis. It's been going on for so long, and stuff is kind of finally happening. So 46 states, what is it? Filed
Antitrust lawsuit.
Antitrust lawsuit against Facebook. It's just good to see this stuff happening, but it seems like every time it happens, like nothing happens because they make so much money. So Twitter got cracked down on, but it doesn't make a difference because they don't care.
The thing is, I feel like I don't know. I think that Facebook has like a lot of competitors. I don't know if you could really call it a monopoly.
But it's the first. So it's basically with like the early YouTubers and anybody who's the first one on the scene, that's the one that's most popular, whether it's the best quality or it has the best content. It's just the one that everybody knows.
But I mean, if you're just like looking, like Google would be a competitor of Facebook. I think that's not a stretch to say, right?
For social media, or are you speaking
Just for like as just like an overall competitor. I don't know. I think they're in the same rank. I feel like all those big tech companies are competitors of each other, I'd say.
Well, I was speaking strictly just social media companies.
Yeah, I think that would be, I'm not a judge, but I think that would be a tough case to argue that they would be big enough to be broken up. That's just my legal opinion.
Yeah.
I think
They got too big too well.
all these boomer politicians don't trust Facebook. On both sides. It's the one thing.
Yeah, so and now they're switching to
censoring conservatives? Why are you censoring liberals?
on Face. So I haven't gotten rid of mine yet just because of connections with people, but I was just talking to a friend how 10 years ago, if you create a page about your product or your content, people could see your page and you could share it pretty easily, and it would pop up as suggested or related things that people might be interested in. But now Facebook has monopolized it, where you literally have to pay $10 a week, or maybe it's a month, for people to even see your page.
That's a better business model.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's a business, right? Like,
essentially, it's just marketing, DIY marketing.
we are starting to see people flee Facebook a little bit, though. I think there's a movement of people who are. The thing is that another thing that we don't see is that we don't see the big picture, right? So, to us, it's like, whoa, Facebook's been crazy. It's been big. I mean, like, Facebook was created 12 years ago, right? So if you're looking back 100 years from now, like, think about a company that was around for 30 years and then gone. Like, that seems like it was nothing, right? But when we're in the moment, when we're right here, it's like, wow, Facebook is this big beast, but who knows if it'll survive the test of time. There's been so many companies that have seemed so big and then faded away.
Chuck E. Cheese, Blockbuster. If they
Video Magic.
If they crack down on these social media companies, I easily can see some of them going away or just crumbling a little bit.
Right, and I think the big thing is that Section
230.
Yeah, because obviously they're not acting as platforms. I think that would be the biggest issue in my mind with social media, is that you gotta take away their protection if they're starting to censor stuff.
They've been doing it for years now, and it's getting worse and worse.
I don't know if.
So, for example, I was going to touch on this, and we were going to say it late. I was going to say it later, but it's more relevant right now when it comes to the election and what's coming out with voting machines. I'm going to be careful. Implications of fraud, implications of dispute in the election. And I was saying we're endorsing any of those things, YouTube, or any of these platforms. Yep. Thank you, all powerful YouTube. Thank you. So when it comes, our voices are being suppressed based on just opinions or coverage because we're small creators or small podcasters, and we could easily just be shut down like that, and then we don't have any more platform. We have to completely start over, and we have a small following. By just covering something, by not even stating our opinions, just stating what the media is saying on both sides and what's coming out.
Also, when I was talking to Matt, he proposed the theory that we've already been shadow banned.
Our podcast?
Mm-hmm.
On what?
Everything.
No. Maybe Twitter. Instagram's fine.
Do you think we're shadow banned? Drop in the comments below.
Instagram is kind of like the wild, wild west right now, how Facebook used to be. So I don't think we're shadow banned on Instagram. Anchor, Apple, we're still up. Spotify. Hopefully, after this episode, the ball's in your court.
Okay, so let's get to the article that I really wanted to talk about this whole time. COVID in Minnesota. So as you guys might know or may not know, depending on where you're listening from, God Emperor Walls issued a decree earlier this month saying that all restaurants must be closed again. Walmart's open. All these other big box retailers are open.
So
COVID only exists in restaurants.
hey, churches are still open though. So COVID's making progress.
We're strong. Where there's been probably more precautions than anywhere else. Where businesses flipped over half their tables, distanced everyone out, put up plexiglass between booths.
People took out second mortgages to keep their businesses running.
And then they decided to shut them down again. For some reason, I don't know why. They're just picking on the people who can't fight back. And so finally, 150 bars have band together to defy Governor Walz's order. They will be opening, let me check the date here, but they're all planning on opening the same day, and they're going to release a list of restaurants like the day before, too, so they can't come in and preemptively ruin it. So I know I'm planning on going to one of these restaurants just to support them too, because I think that's important, right? So if there's support for these restaurants, like the government has no power over them, it's like, what are they going to do? They're going to drag away 150 bar owners and put them in jail? Like, that's ridiculous.
If you're in New York, they will.
Yeah, they have been, yeah. So I don't know the situation out there, but I think people have been showing support. But that was just like one bar, it's like you got all these places need to band together, And I think it took people getting desperate enough to where they had nothing else to lose.
Yeah, I've got a couple things to say about that. So I first saw the story. Every once in a while, I'll check the Minneapolis or Minnesota subreddits, and they're super left, but I think it's good to get coverage from both sides. So don't just listen to us because we're moderate or libertarian or lean right a little bit. Also listen to other content or podcasters that might lean a little bit different or believe in different things than you do. I encourage everybody to do that. But the subreddit, it was mostly everybody is condemning these people and they're just getting a ton of upvotes, and then you look and there's like 30 downvotes, and it's people asking real questions such as, why is what these people doing wrong when they can't support their families? They're going to be out of their homes. They have absolutely no money left. What are they supposed to do? They're pushed to this. This isn't their choice. And there isn't a reply. It's just negative. It's just people being negative Nancy's and telling people that their lives at risk and that it's by not wearing a mask, right, or opening these bars, they're literally killing people. When in reality, it's maybe going both ways. Like, what are these people supposed to do? If you would give me a good alternative to what they're supposed to do, I would hear you out, but I'm not hearing
Alternative
one.
is they think that the government should give them money. That's it.
Well, the government did that. You want to know what the government already did? So I think it was really small. It was less than 20% of the stimulus money given out by the government was given to the public. There was enough, I think it's to give every household or every family in the United States, it was $20,000 for 2 months or something like that. And you should read this up. I'm just speaking off of what I'm remembering. Well, yeah, but so we got, it was less than 20% for the public, and then these corporations that don't pay taxes anyway, that are staying open during COVID, are then getting our stimulus checks and our stimulus money, and it's going straight to them. So the government might as well have printed 95% of their new money and just given it to corporations, because that's exactly what is happening.
Like that stimulus package was like the biggest joke. It was the biggest like transfer of wealth in American history to people.
And it was a fight because Pelosi kept trying to slip things in, like a ton of funding for the post office, a ton of all these other things. Pelosi would not sign or just propose, whichever one she does, I'm not a government expert, but a bill that just had the stimulus in it. She kept trying to add all this stuff. And it happened with the second stimulus as well. And that's why we, the public, or people out there who really need this second stimulus, or we're depending on it, don't have it.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, it's everyone in government right now, right? So how many people in the House... Here's a trivia question for you. How many people in the House do you think voted against it?
The
Senate combined. So in the House, there's
Voted against what?
Voted against the stimulus bill, or like the one that eventually passed. House and Senate. Remember, there's 50 in the Senate. There's several hundred in the House.
Oh, we're playing a guessing game? I don't know. Let's say, I'm just going to go, 60% in the Senate voted against it? And let's say 30 in the House? The first proposal?
One person, the one that passed. One person in the House.
Voted against it?
Everyone else voted for it, or was...
Oh, I misunderstood your question. I'm making myself sound really stupid.
No. That one person was Thomas Massey, rep from Kentucky, I believe. I mean, that tells you all you need to know about the government, is that none of these people, either they were too scared to fight it, or they just signed on, right? Everyone got their little piece of pork in the bill.
Well, yeah, that's it.
And so, it's just like, I'm just so happy to see that businesses are finally banding together and telling the government, no, you do not have any right to shut us down. If consenting adults want to come here, you do not have a right to tell me what I can sell to them. That's what it comes down to, and it's like it's finally happening. I wanted this like 2 months into the pandemic. It was none of the business of the government in the first place, and it's just so refreshing to see like people stand up, and these are like brave people,
Oh, they're true American patriots. I condemn them for what they're doing. They're putting their livelihoods, all of their finances, they're risking prison time, risking providing for their family to stand up against a government that doesn't care about them and that's making up rules just to benefit themselves that have absolutely no statistics backing them up. For the masses. Not for the masses, for the few.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great to see it. You love to see it. So.
And by saying, we are not saying that COVID isn't real or it's not a risk, but the government can't overstep their bounds like this. It's literally unconstitutional. So whether you agree, it's basically whether you agree with the Constitution or not. And our country was formed on this. And there he goes.
Crap, my phone died.
Oh no. And now he's back.
Wait, can you play the voice messages from your phone into your mic?
Are we on that? Are we to the... Alright, I'll wrap that up. Was that the last sort of thing we were gonna...
That's it. So let's move to the mailbag, and...
We have a new segment today. We're gonna hopefully have this going forward, see how it works. It's called... Oh, we're gonna do mailbag, actually, and then we're gonna do a new segment. I apologize.
Segment first?
Sure.
Let's do that first.
No. Yeah, let's do mailbag. So, I've got to pull up... So, we've got some listener mail here today. Apologize, I got to pull this up. You gotta talk here.
Me?
Do some filler.
Today, the Bucks announced that Giannis Antetokounmpo is re-signing a 5-year Supermax extension. This is a huge win for small markets and a huge loss for the globalists that all wanted Giannis on their team. So all I gotta say is go Bucks, and hopefully he brings us a championship. This is a great day for Milwaukee sports, truly.
Thank you, Bucks. Thank you, NBA. Thank you, China. Thank you, China. Thank you. All right, we've got some. We're just going to play them straight into the mic right here. So this call is from Peter. It says, calling question.
Hi, guys. This is Peter calling, longtime listener. I have a question for you guys. So which better, Avatar: The Last Airbender or The Legend of Korra? Would love to hear your opinions. Thanks.
Great question, Peter. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Peter.
Have you watched both Avatar: The Last Airbender?
I've only watched The Last Airbender, so I'm not qualified to answer this question.
Okay, I guess it's going to be me then. So I have watched both. I really enjoyed Avatar: The Last Airbender. It has a different feel than Korra. Korra's a little more mature in a way, but it's still geared towards the youth. It still is a children's show. That Last Airbender is so deep, and Korra, it's deep, but it's kind of, I feel it as if it's kind of niche in a way. And then how it ended, I thought the ending and Korra's love interest, I'll just leave it at that, was very forced, and it was very forced, and I didn't enjoy it, and it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth for the rest of the series. So up to that point in the series, I thought it was decent, not as good as The Last Airbender, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it now. I don't think I would rewatch it. I'll tell you that, but I would rewatch The Last Airbender.
Cool, thanks, Peter.
Moving on to, we've got 4 questions here today, or voice messages. This is from Jesse.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. I need an opinion. Me and my friend were arguing the other day about whether like a chocolate chip cookie is like a dessert or is it like a snack. And it actually got pretty heated the other day. He threw a book at my head and I said a couple cusses at him. But I need to say, anyways, yeah. Is a cookie a dessert or is it a snack? I mean, I need to know. Thank you guys.
Wow, Jesse, that is a very good question. Thank you for the question. Do you want to start this one out, Ryan?
So, thank you for the question, Jesse. Very good. I hope things with your friend are going better.
I hope all is well, and your head is okay. I didn't catch if you got hit with a book or not.
So I would say my first instinct is to say a cookie is a dessert, just because of the elemental makeup of a cookie. There's lots of sugar and butter and chocolate, and these are kind of desserty items. Plus you bake it. I feel like a lot of desserts are baked. But I mean, if there's cookies sitting out, I will eat them as a snack. But I think I would classify them as a dessert that can be eaten as a snack. So you're both right.
I think... who said that a cookie was a snack? Was it the friend or Jesse?
He didn't say who...
Oh, you didn't say?
No.
I think you're wrong. It's a complex issue. So, cookies, if it is a gourmet or fancier cookie, it is definitely a dessert. But a chocolate chip cookie is not a dessert. It is an all-American classic. It is a snack. You don't go to the store in the dessert aisle. Are cookies in the dessert aisle? They're not. Chocolate chip cookies specifically. So if there is a fancy souped up chocolate chip cookie, it is definitely a dessert. But a regular, just base chocolate chip cookie is a snack.
Well, that's a good point, because say Chips Ahoy or fudge cookie or those type of cookies, that's definitely a snack, I'd say.
Right, it can double.
Bakery, if it's a bakery cookie, just a plain bakery chocolate chip cookie, I think that's dessert.
No, that's a snack. It's a snack. I'm
gonna throw a book at your head.
There's a thin, I think it's a thin line, but I do think a chocolate chip cookie is more of a snack than a dessert, based on the fact you don't eat chocolate chip cookies for dessert most of the time. You eat them, as a snack.
Yeah, well, I mean, I see that. I don't know. I think it's a good question.
We're split, Jesse.
It's a dessert that you can eat as a snack. Okay, next question.
It's a snack you can eat as a dessert.
Okay, next question.
If I had a book here and we were in the studio, I'd tell you what. All right, this is from Matthew K.
Oh, Matthew K.
Hey guys, I just wanted to call in and ask if you've heard about the Time Magazine's article where they put Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the person of the year. Do you think that they are indeed one person, or do you guys have a better person that could have won that award? Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for what you guys do. Keep it up.
I want to tackle this first. So, if you watch the movie with Will Ferrell, the classic Kicking and Screaming, I forgot the big kid's name, but there's a little kid, and Will Ferrell calls him Bing Bong or Ding Dong or something like that. And so they put the kid on the big kid's shoulders, and they create a mega person. I think Will says it, or his character says it. So if Joe and Kamala are using their body together to create one person, say like Power Ranger style, or with Bing Bong and Kicking and Screaming, I do think that they qualify for being the person of the year from Time's qualification. However, I do not think they are qualified because they've honestly not really done a whole lot this year. Or is it person of the year for 2020? I think it's a cop-out. And also it's a cop-out because they aren't like combining their bodies all of the time.
So, I mean, at the heart of the issue, this is a spiritual question. It's about souls, right? So I would like to turn to Scripture and read Mark 10:8. So Mark 10:8 says, "And the two will become one flesh. They are no longer two, but one flesh." So I think that would seem to indicate that they are one flesh, but I think that what we're really seeing here is an insurance policy. You have a senile old man with some health issues and a bad ankle or leg or whatever it is. Probably 50-50 chance he makes it through the year. I mean, you don't want the Time Person of the Year to die.
Are you talking about like a cyborg situation? Like they're going to save Joe by fusing him and Kamala together?
Honestly, if you look at the ancient Aztecs...
Or is it Kamala? I apologize.
Blood sacrifices so that they could obtain like new knowledge. And it's possible that Kamala could be a blood sacrifice for Joe Biden to give him some extra years of life.
I'd say it's probably equal amount, like an equal chance that they are a mega person cyborg or like a Power Ranger thing as they're trying to do the blood sacrifice. So honestly, Matt, this is a great question. I think that we both saying they don't qualify because they're two-person?
Oh yeah, what was the question? Does it count?
Does it count? I don't think it does count unless it comes out that they're doing some sort of weird ritual to become one person, or one of them dies and they're combining bodies or something like that, or they got like some Power Ranger armbands or something. So it's just, I don't think they qualify, and I do think it's a cop-out.
Also, the Something Fishy podcast does not endorse any deaths.
Yeah, it's just it's.
Well, that was all satire. I just want to say that.
All right, we've got one more question from Alex.
Do you think they released Cyberpunk 2077 too early? And do you think it was more on the developers for the crappy renditions of the game, or do you think the fans overreacted?
Alex, thank you for this question.
Thank you, Alex.
You want to start it off?
So, I haven't played the game myself. Maybe I will when I get the new Xbox.
I have not as well, but I have seen the stories.
From what I've read, is that it is a pretty fantastic game, and that it is quite the open world. But perhaps people's expectations were too high, and they were being too tough on the game. Like I said, I haven't played the game, but I mean, I'm sure it's probably a great game. But I think people are just like the minority of people are just like so loud, and people are so entitled about everything that I don't know. I think the game was just so hyped up, but at the same time, it's like if you're releasing a game at the launch of the console, too, like people have a certain expectation about how good the game is going to be. So, I mean, do you think the game studio wanted there to be bugs and stuff like that? And get all this bad press? You know, it's like these are just things that happens. Like as games get more complicated, they're going to be buggy when they come out.
What was the game studio that would have released it? Because if you take a look at games like the Outer Worlds port to Switch or Fallout 76 or all these new sports games, it seems like companies are just half budding, I would use another word, but we're a family-friendly show, these games, and then they're just relying on microtransactions or a patch, and it's just a money grab. I would hope that the studio just has bugs and things and it's an overreaction, or maybe they did just like rush it, but I hope that's not the case.
So this is by CG Project. So yeah, it's got a lot of 1-star reviews. This is interesting. So this is just like on Google. There's 11,000 ratings, and probably about half of them are 5 stars. About 40% are 1 star, and then there's like 10% are 2 to 4 stars. So it seems like people that's a very interesting distribution. People either love it or they hate it for some reason. So I like I said, I don't know about exactly about it. I just heard that like some people really liked it and some people were like really pissed for some reason. Here's an article: how Cyberpunk 2077 sold a promise and rigged the system.
Well, didn't we see this with a space game a little while ago? Was it Destiny?
No, that was No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
That was like that came out in like 2014 maybe. But that game was actually terrible, I think, was the deal.
Well, it's the same thing with Fallout 76. Or even Fallout 4 is another open world game that promised a lot of things that it didn't deliver. At least that's what I remember. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know, it seemed like people liked it.
No, I think they do like it, but because it was a Fallout game, but it left them wanting more when it came to the settlements and stuff like that. It was just super repetitive.
Well, shout out to all the listener questions. That actually does sweet. That makes our show a lot better. So.
Yeah, we seriously and here's the thing: if you don't want to go on Anchor, those are all from Anchor submitted. What was it? The voice.
Yeah, so we should probably place that link in the podcast because it's our Anchor and then / message or something like that. But we can put that down the podcast from now on.
Yeah, it's essentially a voice message that you can send us, and then we'll listen to them and we'll play them on the podcast and answer them. Also, if you don't want to do that, yeah, we'll take emails and messages. So, again, I'm going to say it. The email is somethingfishypod@gmail.com. And then on every single other platform, you can find us at podfishy. All those platforms are on our Anchor, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, just to name a couple of them.
All right, so
we've got a
new segment alert.
Yes.
See, we need music for a new segment, and then we need like a new segment song, and then like a song for the new segment as well. But so this segment is called, going with our Something Fishy podcast, it's called A Deep Dive into Shallow Waters. It's where we talk about something that's very deep and that we have no expertise of talking about, but we talk about it anyways.
We're coming from a place of authority, essentially.
So I was sitting in the bathroom, meditating, as I do multiple times per day generally, and the question came to my mind. Well, I guess the first question came to my mind. I was just debating a thing in my head, right? I was like, it's so hard to know like what's true and what's not, and like coming to like a black and white answer on things. And so it's a lot of times it's easier not to think about them, right? Because if you don't think about hard things and you don't come to a hard answer, then you don't have to worry about it. So the question that I wanted to pose was, is it immoral to be ignorant? Or like to choose to be ignorant? Not to be ignorant, but is it immoral to choose ignorance? So I was, just like thinking about like how we treat animals, or like what like your main goal and purpose in life should be, or it's like these questions, right, where there's not really a right answer, but if you do like research and you think about it, maybe you'll come to a tough answer. Like for example with animals, like I eat meat and stuff, and you eat meat, but it's like you do wonder, as stewards of this world, we've been given authority to reside over it, right, and see how as we see fit, kind of. But at this point in our society, where we can get proper nutrition, like assuming you're well off enough money wise, where you can get proper nutrition from from a plant-based diet, or some substitutes and that sort of thing, and not eat meat, that raises the question, like, doesn't mean that everyone has to do that, but if you yourself can do that, and save animal suffering or whatever, like this, I'm just speaking hypothetically, like that's like a question that's like tough, right? It's like, because you can look at it and you can like justify, you can obviously easily justify it, being that humans are made to eat meat. It's compatible for us, it's good for us, but it leads to like tough questions, right? So, but that's kind of like one of the things I was thinking about when I got to this question is it, because a lot of times it's easier just to not think about it, say I don't even want to deal with this, but is it immoral to take a stance like that, where you're just choosing to be ignorant because you don't want to get to tough answers?
I think it's a double-edged sword. So and a lot of it is based off of intention. If we take somebody who, what is the question again?
So is it immoral to choose ignorance?
So take somebody who chooses to be ignorant on our social media, our culture, what's kind of going on in the world, and they buy their own plot of land, they move out in the country, and they're ignorant to the world. Is that immoral?
Well,
I wouldn't say
exactly the angle I'm going for, but I
know, but that's the question.
Oh no,
so
I would say no.
I wouldn't.
No, I don't.
I wouldn't say that's immoral. And then you also have, say, the person with meat. Like me myself, if I had like a meat guy who I knew that his meat is farm fresh and grass fed. It's not like genetically tampered with. It's not cloned animals. There's no GMO or like GMA or whatever it is in there. I would 100% go and do that, right? If I had the hookup. However, it's so weighted because I have to pick and choose my battles. I'm in a 2-income household. If we go a couple months with one of us not working, we wouldn't be able to pay our mortgage. So you have to pick and choose your battles, and the middle class and the lower class do, financially speaking, just because you don't have... do you see what I'm saying? It's so...
Yeah.
You don't have that opportunity. You do, but if you choose to do this here, you're going to have to take away from this. So if you're... Like, I know about these things, and I wish I could do something about them. I wish I didn't have to go to Cub Foods or a large grocer once a week, and I could support a small one. But I literally don't have the time in my life and in my situation. I can't do that. But that doesn't mean I'm ignorant to it. In every opportunity that I have to go against it or do the alternative, I will, and sometimes I will go out of my way, but I can't do it every time.
And I think that's an important thing you mentioned too, is applying it to like different businesses that we buy for, whether it's like shoes or something else like that. Like, is it, it's like, you could look into it, right? As consumers, do we have a responsibility to? And this is even like a different. That's like there's like different levels of this, but as consumers, do we have a responsibility to make sure the products we're buying, the workers are treated fairly,
are ethical?
Yeah, everything's ethically sourced or that sort of thing. Like, is choosing not to look at it because you know it's going to be tougher on your life, is that immoral? Is that wrong? And you know, that's like that was the question, and it's like, wow, that's kind of like a deep question, you know?
Well, in my situation, if I'm in that situation, I try to buy U.S. as much as I can, like United States made. I try to buy ethical as much as I can. But if I am purchasing something online, say I need a part for something or I need this, and the price difference is 300%, I literally cannot do that, and I have to make the sacrifice. I wish it wasn't like that. I wish these companies would treat people fairly, and these corporations would, and more people would be speaking out against it, and the world wasn't set up in this way where we have to just be pushovers and work a 9 to 5 days a week until we hit Social Security and retire and then die. I wish things could be different, and by talking about these things, we're hoping to wake people up and create something that's different, that's positive. But at the moment, we could just do what we can do.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think you'll tear yourself up, I guess, thinking about some of these things where it's like, where it feels like you're always falling short of like the best way to live your life, even. You know, just because there's, like, obviously you could always be, like, every minute you spend on one thing is a minute that you could have been spent on another thing. Every dollar that you spend on yourself is a dollar that could have been spent on someone else. You know, it's like all that, like, that's the type of stuff that, like, messes with your head. And maybe that's a good thing to think about, but at the same time, it's like, it's so hard. It's like, where do you draw the line, you know?
It's really tough. I split it up by having the understanding that I can do my part, but corporations, what is it? The air, they pollute the air. It's something like 90 or 95% of air pollution is from 30-something corporations. And I'm not like remembering exactly. You should look this up. But so, kind of, yeah. A lot of it is from China, but also the U.S. and other large countries too. But I can just do, like, it's like a grain of rice in an entire bag of rice that you're doing, and that's all you can do. You can't beat yourself up over it when that's literally all you can do. Recycle, throw your trash away, like, don't burn plastic in the fire pit. Like, it's just simple stuff. But we can hold ourselves accountable, and we need to try, and we're trying as hard as we can to hold these big corporations that don't care about the common person accountable.
Yeah, I think it's tough, you know, and you know, as long as there's a ground movement, right? As long as each generation like keeps making a stand at higher things, you know, eventually, like, what is a corporation, right? It's a bunch of, in the end, it's like a bunch of people, right? There's people making the decisions at all these levels of the corporation. So as time goes on, you know, you just hope that you get good, like, moral people to be in these corporations, because corporations can do a lot of, like, things for good, right? I mean, we can see, like, when a corporation chooses to, like, you know, give a certain amount of their money or, like, pledge to support, like, various groups. Like, corporations can do lots of amazing things.
I think they can, but a lot of it is sometimes a front. So if you take a look into the corporation as a whole, so you take a look at Nike and Apple and Coke, and we're going to go back to China. They create products in China. They don't want their factories and things investigated, but yet they give money to social causes and do these things with Black Lives Matter, or give money to, you know, ALS or those sorts of things. I do think it's a front for a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some of that, right? Like, all these, I mean, and that's something that they evaluate too. It's like, oh, what's our monetary benefit from looking like a good company, right? The form of advertisement, right? So, we can pay for this commercial for several $1 million, or we can donate several $1 million to this cause, make a little social media campaign, and people will support it. But I mean, that greed is good, though, in a way. Like, corporations wanting to give money and wanting to help other people to help themselves. Like, overall, that's a good thing.
It's good. It's good in the short term, but the long term, it doesn't help us change things. Because it's a quick fix.
Well, yeah, I mean, change... The thing is, like, change is such a big issue. Like, it comes down to, like, that's such, like, a big discussion that we can't even get into it. But it comes down to, like, your society values and, like, how moral the people of your country are or whatever. And that's why I think that when you think about all these things, the best conclusion that you come down to, and that's why I think, like, that... like philosophy across religion and politics, there is like a chemistry to it all, right? And in the end, it's like the best thing you can hope for is to decentralize power as much as possible and empower the individual as much as possible. Like, the more that we can empower individuals, I think the better that our society will end up.
Well, this is a way different topic, and it's really deep too, but I do think it starts at centralized banks, because when the banks have control of your money and you're in debt to them, the individual can't do anything because you're in debt to the bank is working with the government, and then you're fighting two people, corporations, many people instead of one. But
people don't even realize how much they're being conned is the problem. It's like, and the thing is that, though, it's like, I'm a part of the con too. Like, I value $1. It's like someone was making. I heard on some podcast the other night. It's like, are people really valuing cryptocurrency, or are they just hoping that their cryptocurrency turns into more U.S. dollars, right? And that's what they're actually. I think that's what a lot of people are actually hoping for, right? Is that it's just a way to get more dollars. Yeah. The dollar still, like, rules the world, but it's also the way we're getting conned. It's the way that government can steal from us by printing more money and devaluing our money, devaluing our savings. I mean, it's just like, but the thing is, like, it's such a deep-rooted problem that you don't even know where to begin to start.
I'd like to counter by saying taxation is theft, and that is. Oh, wow. I already knew that. I'm messing with you. But I just want to go back to the corporations. I wanted to say this. As good intentioned people are, when you keep getting more and more money and being accustomed to a certain way of life and certain way of living and the circles that you run in and the people you deal with, as much as you like to say that you wouldn't, you start to lose touch with the regular person. So me and myself, I relate more to the middle class. Even middle upper class, I don't relate to as much. I can relate to the, lower class, financially speaking. Nobody is lower class, socially speaking. So I can relate to that. I've got people I know who are considered middle class, but they're on the upper end, and they don't understand. They make a lot of money in the month. They don't understand that, like, $1,000 extra for a family is a month is life changing, and for them that's just nothing. So even in the middle class, quote unquote middle class, there's a huge separation of wealth and understanding. So if you take that from the middle to the upper or higher class, and then you take that from the millionaires, and then you take that up to the billionaires who are part of all these corporations and things and high millionaires, that gap is so big. I just don't see how someone can relate to the majority of the population.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good point. I mean, like,
and I would like to be wrong.
And that's going to be every single person. Like, every single person's worldview is shaped by the people around them, their circumstances, their health, their this, their that. Like, all of us have a different and unique perspective on the world. And I think that's why it's just everything's too big, right? It's too big. There's too many people. There's too many diverse backgrounds, diverse cultures. People are different, right? And that's what, like, everyone has different views. Everyone has different things that they hold. It's like, so we need to find what unites us, and a philosophy that we can all get behind. Like this.
We need to break
this philosophy of the elites running our lives and pilfering from the poor, and like that's not cool.
No.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. Any other thoughts today?
Yeah, I just want to say on that to finish it up, whether people are good intentioned or not, I don't know if I already said this, maybe I'm doubling up, but if you are good intentioned and you're up to that level of wealth and financial success and social success, as much as you do, I think, try to adhere to the common person and what their wants are and what their needs are, there's still, if you do the best job that you can, there is still going to be a disconnect. So, like you said, things are too big. Churches are too big. Like these mega churches, I don't think that you can't connect with someone with a building that big. Our government is too big. These governments are too big. These corporations are too large. These schools are too large. These companies, if you break things down to medium and smaller, and obviously this is super complex, and there's a lot of different stuff that goes into this, but I do think that people are going to be able to relate to each other more. And there's going to be less divisiveness and more commonalities, and seeing people's differences and embracing them and coming together, instead of having these large separations from even third world to first world to second world in literally anything.
Right. And I think, that's like we were talking about last year. It's like humanity needs to unite, you talk to any person, right? You talk to any person, just for the most part, you sit down and two people are just open. I don't even want to say open-minded because that's not the right vibe, but two people who are they treat each other with respect and talk. They could be completely different, but they'll get along. They'll find something. It's that's real life. And it's I think we always think we're so divided, and we always focus on what divides us. But it's in the end, we're all just people with hopes and dreams.
Ooh, that was a great way. We're all just people with hopes and dreams here, and we're just trying to
wrap this up. I should have said this at the beginning of the episode, but if you're listening now, then whatever. We'll say it at the beginning of the next episode too. But our podcast is growing, and we're continually trying to get better quality content, better quality sound, better quality talking and opinioning. But just know that we're always trying to improve. And I feel obviously sometimes it's rough. So I just want to say thank you for listening and sticking with us. And I know that we're going to do our best every week to try to bring a better show,
Yeah, seriously. If you're listening, we really do appreciate it. And it's going to be rough at first, but just if you got any tips or anything to say, we're open to it 100%.
Well, I have to go cook dinner. What are you doing tonight?
I've got to hang out. Just want to say we're giving away this Final Fantasy 12. I don't know if that's actually 12, but I do trust Ryan. So remember, it's 5 reviews, or just not reviews. What is it called? Ratings. 5 ratings on Apple Podcasts. Send us a little screenshot of your rating, and then send it to us on any social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or email at somethingfishypod@gmail.com.
Watch yourself. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Little cats on the it don't matter until the list of materials makes one want more. With no room to fund his appetite, he goes to run route, trades his talent for bullets and shoots everybody out. He wants to be leader of the pack, and in his game to get it, he steps on everybody.